I've got an interesting one for you this time. I've decided to have another go at doing a Bluebell wood. I did the first one a year or so ago. It's on the channel somewhere. But I didn't totally like it, so I wanted another go. And so last spring I went and took loads of photographs of the same wood as I did before, plus a wood that's just to the east of Hastings. I believe it's still in Hastings, but it's just above the cliffs. There's a wood up there, and I ended up with this photo, which is not great. It's the best I came out with, but I was going to wait till this spring to try and get a better photograph, but now I thought I probably won't be able to. I'm no photographer, so I thought I'd just take this photograph and heavily modified it. The result is this, and you see it with the photo. It's virtually nothing like. So if you'd like to see how I did it, carry on watching, and any likes and subscriptions would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Right, I'm looking at the photo and seeing how I'm going to change it, and what I've done is made the path a lot more windy, and I've given the terrain far more slope. The right hand tree is in the photograph and the thin diagonal one, but I added the larger tree on the left. I thought that balanced it better. Now I'm doing a basic blocking, which is taking the mid values of the colours and just filling the board completely in. Really helps to get a feel for how it's going to end up, and when you put on the next layers you can judge their colour much better. Making a start on the background trees. These are going to be very subtle, as you want them to look like they're way in the distance under a bit of mist, maybe. Certainly the colours are very desaturated. That's making the colour closer to a grey. You don't need to go into any great detail here, just a rough indication, giving it a bit of a texture. Moving forward into the scene now a bit, where got the next level with trees. Again, still very faint. These trees are all made up. I haven't really even looked at the photograph for those. This is spring, so there's not much leaves on the trees. They're just starting. They're very yellow this time of year. Right, yet another little layer forward, a few more trees, getting a little bit stronger, a little bit darker. Now there's this mid-ground bunch of foliage which has just it's a tricky decision here where to how much detail to put in there, because you want to save the finest detail for the foreground. while you're doing this, it always looks like you've gone a bit too bold, and because it's looking a bit too far forward in the scene, but it will sit further back once the next layer goes over the top of it. Now here I'm adding some darker textures everywhere. This is just to stop it being flat when you see parts of this through the final detail. I've decided there's going to be a band of light on that background, so I'm painting in the not so much leaves, the grass and odd bits of plants. All this grass does get eventually filled up with bluebells, as I'm doing here. This is the background bluebells, so again, don't need too much detail. Soon I've got to make the decision of when to do the path, because the grass wants to go over the top of the path, so I'm going to have to get this path in first, because I'm starting to meet the path with that background. I've got to keep making decisions of which bit to paint first, which is going to be behind which, and where I'm going to have the spots of light, because there will be spots of light coming through the trees. So now I've added those slightly more foreground trees, it's pushed back that bank of trees. Now I'm putting the path in with a fan brush and having to make the lighting decision here. I've decided I'm going to have 3 main bands of light on the bluebells. And to prepare for them, I'm filling that large bank on the left with lots of just stems and stalks and grass, just an indication. I thought the path there needed closing down, which I couldn't really do, so I added that tuft of grass. I thought it just helped the composition a little. Now is a good time to get the major trees in before I put bluebells over the top of them. This left tree is the one closest to the viewer, and so it's getting the most detail. Not sure you could see that, but I did decide the path going further back was a little too dark, so I added a very thin wash of titanium white in liquid just to give it a glaze. Now I've added this bush here as I wanted something a little bit dark, as I intend putting a young sapling in front of it, and it needed a darker background just to make it show up a bit. That'd be one of the last things that goes in. This tree here is the second closest, so it also gets a fair bit of detail, but not as much as the one on the left. Now here I've gone back over that background patch of bluebells because I thought they weren't quite light enough. Because I really wanted it to give the feeling of the sun streaming through. Lots of preparation on that grass bank, ready to take the bluebells that go over the top of it. Trying to keep in mind that the length of the grasses gets longer as it gets closer to you. All these lengths of grass have been painted with the oil paint thinned down with white spirit. That helps the paint flow and you can get nice thin lines. Now I can finally do the bluebells over this bank. Here the paint's much thicker, so there's almost a 3D element to it, as the bluebells end up as blobs of paint coming out from the board. I started by adding the darkest colour and then putting the highlights on after. And I used that highlight colour as the background colour with a little bit of alizarin crimson to warm them up, because things in light tend to be warmer, and that's the background colour of the light parts, and now I'm putting its highlights on, which is the lightest of all, and this gives the effect that there's a patch of sunlight hitting them. And now the final touch is that sapling. Which I think gives a little bit of a focal point. And there we have it. Thank you for watching.